Hello, class. I hope you guys are doing well today. I'm really looking forward to being able to talk to you today about priorities. Priorities are things that we think as very important to us, the things that we are supposed to put first, the things that we really look to that are going to help move us forward or are going to help our families or going to help our work. These are priorities. The problem is that a lot of times we don't get to our priorities. We don't have a chance to really focus on our priorities. And it boils down to time. We focus on so many things in our lives today that priorities a lot of times get shoved to the side. But priorities should be the first thing that we do instead of the last. And I want to look at some ways to make our priorities happen and to make them count in our lives. And there's 4 steps to doing that. One is know our priorities. 2 is set our priorities. 3 is plan our priorities. And finally, do your priorities. And these 4 steps are really going to help to solidify making sure that our priorities happen and that they count in our lives. So number 1, know your priorities. That's the first thing that we have to do. We have to figure out, where are our priorities coming from? What makes them priorities to us? And that means that we have to create a core. We have to look at core beliefs. We have to look at core values. And we almost need to create a mission statement for different things that make us say, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to spend my time. And once we do that, we also need to make sure that it's lined up with what God says. In Matt Perman's book, What's Best Next, he says, how do you state your mission in a way that is specific to you and takes into account the specific things that God has most laid on your heart? So when you have something that God has laid in your heart and something that's important to you, those are your priorities. Those are the things that we should be focused on. So how do we find out what's important to us? First of all, we set up some roles. So we take our ideas and we say, these are the roles that I have in my life: father, mother, husband, son, student, manager, whatever it is. These are the roles. And you should have about 5 to 7 roles. And then each week, you prioritize goals for each one of those roles. And that's about 2 to 3 for each role of goals that you're going to accomplish in a week. And that's how you kind of know your priorities so that you can do that moving forward. Secondly, you set your priorities. You take your roles and you put them into different days. So like Wednesday, your role might be husband. And that might be the best day to have a date night every week, making sure that you're connecting with your wife. So that's the first thing, is you list major roles into days. Then you take the goals that you have for the roles and you put them into the days. So now you have goals that you want to accomplish for each day that match up with the things that are most important to you, your priorities. Thirdly, once you've got those set, you plan your priorities. And you schedule days at only about 70% capacity. Just like a traffic pattern when you're driving down the highway, and sometimes it seems like it stops for no reason. Well, Matt Perman has done some research in his book, and he said that is because at about 70% capacity, it just breaks down. And it's about the same in our lives. When we get overwhelmed, we just kind of shut down. And that's at about 70% of our actual capacity. How many of you guys have ever felt overwhelmed? Some of that is because we're trying to do too much and not focused on our priorities. So how do we do that? How do we actually plan our priorities? First, we take it day by day. We know what needs to be accomplished each day. First things first, we plug in the necessary items: kids' games, meetings that we have, coffee, Bible studies, things like this we plug in. Then, instead of plugging in a to-do list, we plug in our priorities into chunks of time. And we say, from this chunk of time to this chunk of time, I am focused on this priority and everything else doesn't matter. Around that, you can fill in the busy work. But planning your priority is the first thing. Stephen Covey, in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is a phenomenal book, highly recommended. He says daily planning what becomes more of a function of daily adapting and of prioritizing activities and responding to unanticipated events, relationships, and experiences in a meaningful way. When you're just shooting from the hip, sometimes it doesn't take on the meaningful ways. However, when you're able to make sure that your priorities are getting done, then you have time to really focus on the things that you want to do and making them meaningful. Fourth, make sure you do your priorities. Each day, once you set your priorities for the week, have a daily check-in. Maybe do it right in the morning along with your devotions. You do your devotions and then you get your day set. Start with God first and then move forward. But review the calendar and the plan. And then once you have that and you have a to-do list, write down 3 most important tasks that you want to get done and do them right away. Do those things first. Always place your priorities over busy work during your day. Set aside everything else. Let people know I'm not available during these times. Also, make your priorities over technology. That little ding that says, hey, you have an email, that can really distract you from getting your priorities done. So when you're focused on a priority, set technology, busy work, many other things aside, and have some focused time. So what's going to happen if we do this? If we focus on knowing our priorities, setting our priorities, planning our priorities, and doing our priorities, we're going to have increased productivity, less stress, more projects being completed, and ultimately more time for relationships, more time to encourage people and love people. So if that's what you're wanting, if you're wanting to figure out how do I love people better, productivity is a way to do that. Because then instead of tasks, you can focus on people. The people at work, the people at the places you volunteer, the people at school, the people at your church, the people that you're ministering to. When you focus on your priorities and you set those, and you know them, and you set them, and you plan them, and you do them, it's an increase of being available to love people. Thank you guys very much.